Hi guys, we're going live with Jacqueline Twillie today from Zero Gap. Here she is.
Hey,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm good. I'm so good.
You
I'm
look
really excited
great.
to talk with you.
Likewise.
We've had such a great response and so many questions today. So I think it's awesome that we get to have a live chat.
Likewise. I'm so excited about all of the questions and comments and things like that. So, hey, y'all, hey.
So tell me, I know we talked a little bit in stories about what today is, but I'd love for you to kind of dive into that a little bit more because we had a lot of people reach out and have questions.
Yes. So, today is Black Women's Equal Pay Day. And when we have like a day, people typically think, oh, happy whatever day it is. But it's definitely not a happy day. It's not a celebratory day either. It's a day of awareness.
Right.
So the reason why August 13th is Black Women's Equal Pay Day and the date changes year to year is because that signifies the day in the year that a Black woman has to work to earn what a non-Hispanic white male earned in all of 2019. So
Wow.
all the way into this part of August. That comes out to somewhere around 62 cents on a dollar.
Wow.
So that's what today is. It's a day of awareness, not a celebratory day at all. But the more we know about these wage gaps, especially when it comes to gender and race, we'll be able to be more inclusive in our hiring practices and really understand the importance of pay transparency instead of pay secrecy because it tends to not favor some groups of people.
Okay. Okay. I know. I mean, I think that's something that was really interesting that you brought attention to. I mean, that's a pretty incredible statistic, that it's 62 cents on the dollar.
Mhm.
And I know you have your company, which is amazing, Zero Gap. And what would you say to a young female trying to enter the workplace right now?
Yeah, for a young woman entering the workplace, I feel so hopeful because I think collectively we are awakening our consciousness to things that maybe were unintentional for several generations. So now we get to put a best foot forward. So for young women entering the workforce, you have to be an advocate for yourself. You just can't sit back and think, oh, if I work really hard, somebody's going to notice, they'll give me a promotion or a raise. Like young women have to know to ask for it. And also, don't be bitter because of stats like what I shared, because
Sure.
things are getting better.
Is there something that you see in your research that men do more often than women in the workplace that help get them this higher pay?
Yeah, a couple of things. So, research shows that men are more likely to be promoted on potential, and women are more likely to be promoted on their track record. So, there's a tad bit of an uneven playing ground there,
Yeah,
which is some bias. And the more we talk about it, the more we can call out our own biases because we all have them and do a little bit better. And then
sure.
the other thing is men tend to ask for more money more often than women.
Okay.
So if a woman asks for money and she gets a no, men will typically say, okay, they'll ask again, but women will be like, oh no, 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 I don't want to like
Yeah.
be that woman, so I'll just keep my mouth shut. So those are two big things.
Okay. That's really interesting. I feel like too, of the followers that I have, we obviously I'm in the wedding industry, but also just like entrepreneurs as well. And is there some things that you would say to the employer that maybe is starting out with their own business and will be in a position where they're hiring men and women, things to just kind of look out for in themselves, I guess, or a policy
Yeah.
that they could hold to?
So there's lots of best practices out there, especially for small businesses. So just look up in your industry what are best practices for pay equity, but also keep in mind for small businesses that are hiring, think about the way your job description is written. There's a ton of research out there that says the words that are chosen for a job posting online can significantly impact who applies to it.
Really?
So by paying attention to even that job posting, if you're not really well versed in hiring, as entrepreneurs, we were like, we can do it all. We do it all because we have to. But it's worth investing in someone who knows what they're doing so that your job description doesn't have any bias in it.
That's really interesting. Could you give me an example of kind of what that would be like, maybe a bias not to do or something that you've seen frequently?
Yeah, so some of the biases when it comes to like job descriptions, you'll see that it'll say assertive personality, like really driven. So the words, the action words on the job description,
Mm-hmm.
they're coded to language that best describes male leadership characteristics. Whereas if you want someone who's good on customer service, you may say, I want someone who's empathetic. I want someone who's easygoing. Those tend to attract different types of people. But if it's not pointed out to you, you really don't know. So that's why it's always like key to say, let me bring in an expert because they know these code words that are going to exclude certain people right out of the gate.
I mean, absolutely. I feel like you're showing me stuff that I've done even recently in our intern posting, like we need to hire you. Okay, I love that. I feel like that's really tangible, concrete advice, and I think a lot of times business owners, I know myself, I could speak for myself, we want to do well, and it's just sometimes hard to know where to go and get answers, that are that helpful and that direct. I know you mentioned earlier when we were talking that you have a podcast. Is this
Yes.
something that we could tune into and listen to things like this more often?
Yes. So on the Winning Season podcast, I have over 200 episodes.
Okay.
So there's a catalog of resources available. But yeah, definitely things like this. Today's episode is putting it into Black Women's Equal Pay Day because I'll be happy when we have no day like this. But I talked a lot about stats, and I talked about how over 40% of the wage gap is unexplained. So we know that some factors, but there's a huge chunk of it. And I gave my own theories in the Winning Season podcast
Okay.
episode today. But in other episodes, I have fun guests on. I've had some really amazing guests on the podcast. I
Okay.
see the corporate dropout is tuning in. He was a guest. Yeah, he commented. Hey, Mari. Hey, Leslie. Hey, everybody. But yeah, so the podcast is fun. And I like talking into my computer, and I like for people to like message me so I know I'm not the crazy woman talking to myself.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, and it's incredible that you have that many episodes too, that we can kind of go get started on an education with this. I love that. Well, and I know you've come out with, is it 2 books?
So 2 books and a workbook.
Okay, a workbook. Oh, awesome.
Yes.
Okay, tell me about the workbook. I love that.
So this workbook is like my favorite workbook, period, when it comes to negotiation.
Okay.
So part of what we do at Zero Gap is we're leadership development, but we do have a special emphasis on negotiation. So inside of this workbook, I am so biased, y'all. It's cute. Look at this. I love,
cute.
like I have checklists and like no.
Okay, that would work really well in our industry. We're an industry of checklists, people.
Yes. So I just kind of walk people through like what to do, what to look out for, and it's recommended. I recommend you use this for every negotiation.
Okay.
Because you don't want to skip any steps. And I use an analogy of when pilots fly, let's say they have 10 years of experience, they've flown 3 times that day. The next flight, they still go through the pre-flight checklist. And that's to ensure the smoothest flight possible. So when you're negotiating, go through the checklist every single time to ensure the smoothest negotiation possible.
I like that. Well, and I mean, practice makes a habit, and I feel like a lot of times, especially like in our business, at least, I have people that are working for me, and it's like I want them to also pick up on these negotiating skills and these leadership skills and training too.
Yeah.
Is there a place where we can get this book?
Yes. So you can get it on Amazon, and as part of my life's purpose to eliminate the gender wage gap, I've made it free on Amazon. Not
Free?
the workbook, but the book.
Yeah, that's
It's free
amazing.
on Amazon Kindle today and tomorrow. So if you go to Amazon or head to my website, I have a link. You can download it, share it with all of your people. There's no strings attached. Use
Okay.
the book over and over again.
That's awesome. Thank you. And then we
Yes.
can purchase the workbook on Amazon as well.
Yes.
Okay, great. I love the idea of a workbook because I feel like just seeing hands and notes and like putting that in action. And then I love going
Yeah.
back and looking through that and kind of seeing hopefully some progress, you know?
I
That's
love the
awesome.
workbook too because I tend to keep things in my head and then I
Hmm.
forget something important and I'm like, shoot, I forgot that. So the workbook for me is the way for me to get out of my own head and make sure I'm doing my due diligence when it comes to business.
I love that. I love that. Well, and to everybody who's tuned in with us, like, do you guys have any questions? I'm like, wish I had some background music.
Yeah.
The Q&A.
Somebody else said, where can they get the book? Go to Amazon and type in Don't Leave Money on the Table. And it's the negotiation strategies book, and you can download it for free.
Perfect. Well, and after this, I'm going to share in stories the links that we can go to purchase everything.
Awesome.
So, you know, we're in 2020. We're obviously in the middle of this pandemic, and I think people have, you know, new concerns about employment. Is there anything that your advice that you're giving to clients right now, just to kind of stay the course of leadership and what we all need to be doing?
Yes, such a good question. So, this is what I've been telling all of my clients. This is the time to invest in yourself. Don't wait for things to get better and shake out because we all know that as soon as this is over, companies are going to be ramping back up, getting back into the new groove of things, and they need people ready to go to step into roles ASAP. So if you
Hmm.
wait to develop your leadership skills until this is over, you are going to be left behind. So
Great
read
advice.
books, attend, everybody's doing webinars these days. Attend those industry webinars, listen to podcasts, sharpen your skills now so that you're in position when the opportunity comes up. And also go ahead and update the LinkedIn profiles and resumes because it's just a good time to do that right now.
I love that. I think that's great advice because I think, especially right now, it's easy to get apathetic or a little down and out about, you know, just the current climate with where we are. But that's something we can all do is work on ourselves and be ready. I love
Yeah.
that. That's awesome. Well, is there anything else you want to share with us today?
Yeah, to that point, I think sometimes we're in the midst of something chaotic like this pandemic and it's always something new. It's easy to think short term and to be like, what the heck is happening? I didn't plan on this. My life is like flying through the wind because I feel it sometimes too. That's when it's important to like take a step back and think big picture
Okay.
because we've been through other challenging times in our lives. I'm just assuming that we've overcome challenges. And so think back to that time in the middle of it, you thought it was the worst thing ever. It was lasting way too long. And in hindsight, you're like, oh, that was just a blimp. So keep that in mind because if we stay in the short term mode of thinking, it really gets depressing.
Yeah, I like that. And it's been kind of a couple of months that were depressing, you know? And I think sometimes too, being an entrepreneur and a business owner, it can feel overwhelming without a pandemic, you know?
Yep.
I like their thinking with, you know, the added chaos, like not getting overwhelmed, and we gotta keep going, you know? There's a lot
Yeah.
writing on that. Yeah.
Yes. I see someone here wrote in, there's nothing wrong with creating a pivot job. Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
Pivot, pivot, and pivot as much as necessary. I think that's a great skill to have. We do this training at Zero Gap. It's been really popular since the pandemic on resilience.
Okay.
And resilience isn't built like in a day. It's not a flip of the switch. One day you have it, the next day you don't. So by each pivot you make, you're increasing your resilience, which makes you more adaptable, more agile, more competitive. So by all means, whoever put that comment in, I'm with
Wow.
you.
Jacqueline,
Pivot.
I needed to hear that today. That is really, really good and helpful advice. Because I think, like, I would say, like, to the industry friends that I have in here, the wedding business has been and events have been hit really hard, and we've had to get creative and rethinking, and as many industries have, but thinking that it's going to be over and then a reset again of no, it's a little bit longer and a further push. And I love that, though, that it's making us more resilient and that we can be stronger and better because of that. That's awesome. I need to
Yeah.
hear that. I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to share something too from that resilience training. I just think it's relevant with some of the comments, and I see these hearts flying. Hey, House of Gorgeous Events. I saw your comment. I'm happy this is resonating with you. So inside of that resilience training, I tell people to assess the situation first. Think about like when you're going somewhere, you need to be somewhere at a specific time, and out of nowhere you hit traffic. That's like the worst, right? And then I don't know if this happened for you, Emily, but for me, it's almost like I can see the exit in my eye line view, but I can't move. You're just stuck because of
Yeah.
whatever traffic. So the first thing we do is we assess the situation. What is going on? Is it a car accident? Is it construction? We try to figure that part out. And then the next thing that we do is we pull up the GPS and we start to plot, okay, I'm stuck, I'm frustrated, but how long is it going to take? The third thing that we do after we pull up that alternative route, we communicate. So we'll talk to whomever necessary to be like, hey, or we shoot a text, hey, it's going to take me a little bit longer to get there. This is what's going on, blah, blah, blah. And then the fourth thing is we inch forward bit by bit, even if it's like 5 miles an hour. And if we can remember that in real life, that really helps building that resilience muscle. Because I mean, we have all been in that traffic and you're like, man, if I could just get off, I could take this back way, I'll be on my way. And I feel like we're in a traffic jam right now with this pandemic.
That's awesome. I think too, like just having that visual picture in my mind, and that we are a little jammed up, but knowing that we're headed somewhere and we're going to get there. And I
Yeah.
love that. I think my team and I need to sign up for your resilience training. I think that would be awesome. I love that.
Yeah,
Very helpful.
it's so much fun to do it, and it's just great reminders too because like Emily, I've been hit with it too. I remember when the pandemic happened, within 24 hours everything that I had on my books for the year canceled almost in that 24-hour window, like back to back to back. And I was just, it got to a point where it just got comical, like in
Okay.
another hour something else is going to cancel. Yeah.
Well, but it sounds like you've got pivot training. I mean, you've got a workbook and book coming out and podcast. It's awesome. Like,
So to that point, this was my first pandemic project, this workbook.
really?
Yes.
That's amazing.
This is the first thing that I created in the pandemic. And then I started making kombucha.
That's awesome. Wow. Okay. That's pretty incredible that you could build something like that at a time like this. I mean, it's definitely needed.
Yeah.
I have one more question for you too, because you're so encouraging and you're such a leader. Like, was that hard leading your clients in this time of chaos because you were also being hit as well? Or do you feel
Mm-hmm.
like that just being able to empathize with them helps that process?
I definitely went through this like moment of, oh crap, and having a pity party. Because my year was set up to be like amazing. So I definitely had that. And then I don't know what happened. There was that resilience muscle, I think, that kicked in that I
Hmm.
was just like, okay, there are things I've wanted to do, but I haven't had time because I'm always on the go. And
Yeah,
now I'm stuck inside. I can actually get this done. And that is what really helped me to like get my wheels turning again. Like, oh, this is actually an opportunity for me because I've been complaining I don't have time for XYZ.
that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we should probably even touch on share the mic as well. Like, I know today is about like amplifying voices, and I'm just so glad that I got the pleasure to meet you and know about someone in your profession. I mean, I think this is a skill we could all use, and really better ourselves at this time. Um, And is there anything else you want to share with the audience we have today? Like, I want to make sure we
Yeah.
cover all of our bases. And you're an incredible business leader. I love this.
Thank you, Emily. I'm so glad I got connected with you too. I was so excited that we got matched for Share the Mic. So, just like the whole impetus for Share the Mic is all of the uprising from Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd, and all of the civil unrest we've seen is kind of where Share the Mic was originally birthed from. And I shared a post on LinkedIn that was really vulnerable and transparent. Like, as a Black woman, I'm not okay. And this was early on when like everything was first happening. And I'm like, I don't, it's not about me like having this perfect face, because I feel my culture has always had to suck it up and be like, hey, it's okay, you know, I can go on. But just that moment of vulnerability where I put out to my professional community and my clients, like, I'm not good. It's not okay. This is emotionally draining. I need extra therapy. I need extra time away from stuff, because it's traumatizing, and it's re-traumatizing every time you see those videos
Hmm.
of someone being killed or you hear the story. It's almost like how lynching, the purpose of lynching, public lynchings back in the day was to incite fear. And I feel like it's the same modern day thing where you see the video, you get so terrified. So my nephew's 13, he's like already 6'3". So he looks as like a grown Black man, but he's a kid.
Yeah.
And I'm always conscious of what I buy him in terms of clothing, because I don't want him to be targeted for his outfits. And it's that type of trauma that I saw with everything that was uprising. But then outside of that trauma, you see beautiful things happening, like Share the Mic, where I get to be vulnerable and share my perspective as a Black woman who's a business owner, but also I get to bring to light, this is who I am. I'm a fun person, but I'm also dealing with this heavy, like, generational trauma. And if everybody can extend some grace, and if we can all just have these uncomfortable conversations and
Yeah.
talk through it, we'll be better for having those tough conversations now.
That's amazing. Well, and I'm really grateful for your vulnerability. I know that's not easy always to share, and I appreciate that and the trust that you give when you say that, and you tell your story. That's important. And it's okay to not be okay right now. I feel like that's not an easy thing to admit to, and I really appreciate that. And I know, like, we want to see change and we want to have this come about. And I almost feel like it's, for me, peeling an onion. I feel like I learn something new every day. And if anything, I'm just reminded I'm at the very beginning of my learning. It's just getting started. So I'm really grateful for you and grateful for your words and your leadership.
And
Thank you.
I'm thankful for you too for being a part of this project where, you know, we're building this new collective sisterhood, Share the Mic Now Texas. And for us all to be able to have these courageous conversations of like, we're learning, we're figuring out together. We don't know how to make it right because it's never been right. And for us to like have this sisterhood where we're like, hey, let's walk through this part together, even though it's mucky and uncomfortable and a little scary. I'm so thankful, because prior to this, you and I didn't know each other. And it's
Yeah,
these type of beautiful things that come out of like chaotic, crazy stuff that's been happening and like building up to this boiling point.
right. Totally. Well, you're such a gift, and I'm just so glad to be connected with you. I hope this is the beginning
Likewise.
of a great, partnership for us moving forward. So I love it.
Likewise. Likewise.
Awesome. Well, if you guys have any last questions or comments, please include them. And then I'm going to share in our links, like, where you can get the books and the workbook. And we love supporting you, Jacqueline. This was awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. And thanks for everybody who jumped in and chatted with us this evening. This was fun. So I want to connect with y'all. Send me a DM. Make sure you get the book for free and share it with anyone you know, like especially young girls in college. I feel like if they get this early on, it can be a complete game changer for them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Talk to you later.
Bye, guys. Thanks.